Hey, what's up, guys? So today I'm going to be doing another LeetCode problem, and the problem we're going to be doing today is the Roman to integer problem. So let's get started. It says Roman numerals are represented by 7 different symbols: I, V, X, L, C, D, and M. And over here it has the symbols along with their values. And then it just explains a little bit more about what Roman numerals are and how they work. And there are 6 instances where subtraction is used that they want us to be aware about. So there's IV and IX that make 4 and 9 respectively, XL and XC that make 40 and 90, and CD and CM that make 400 and 900 respectively. And then over here they've just provided us with some examples to further clarify what they want from us, right? So they're just going to pass in a string, and then we have to interpret this string and analyze it or evaluate it so that, you know, we get the output as a number. So we're going to convert it from Roman numerals to a regular number. Okay, so I've laid out the logic behind our solution using pseudocode, as you can see here. And the first thing that we're going to do is declare a result variable. And what this result is going to hold the value of this Roman numeral as an integer. So it's going to help us keep track of that. And after that, we have to iterate through our string s over here. So in order to do that, we have to use a for loop. And the way we're going to iterate and analyze the Roman numerals inside of this string is going to be 2 at a time. So I've declared this pair variable inside of our for loop that basically just sets pair equal to I concatenated with I plus 1. So in this case, let's just say that I is equal to 0, right? Pair would be set equal to M, which is s.char at I, and C, which is s.char at I plus 1. So we're always just taking 2 elements in at a time. And then now that we know this, I'm just going to go ahead and work through the logic so that you guys can hopefully understand how this works and just see for yourselves how this all ties together. So, like I was saying, we have to iterate through our string s, and we're going to use the for loop to do this, and then we're going to come over here and define our pair variable. And right now we can see that I is equal to 0. So our pair is going to be equal to M and C, right? Because we're taking s.char at 0 and then s.char at I plus 1, which would be 1. And it's going to be these 2 characters right here. So we have our pair. Then we're going to check if our pair is one of the 6 instances that use subtraction. So for example, IV, IX, XC, and so on, right? So if it's one of those instances, then we're going to get its corresponding integer value and add it to result. And then we're going to increment the loop variable. And you'll see why we do that in just a second. But in our case, MC is not one of those 6 instances. So what that means is that we have to get s.char at i's corresponding integer value and add it to result. And the reason we do this is because since we know that the pair we're analyzing right now is not one of those 6 instances where we have a Roman numeral with 2 letters, then that means that the first element is going to be a standalone Roman numeral, right? It's something that has to be evaluated by itself. So in this case, we know that M is going to be our standalone Roman numeral. So we have to get its corresponding integer value and add it to result. And the integer value that corresponds to M is 1000. So we're going to add that value to result. So we're going to come over here, and now our result is 1000. So after that happens, I gets incremented at the end of every iteration. So now I is equal to 1. Okay, so now that I is equal to 1, our pair is going to be C and M. That's going to be the new pair we're evaluating. Alright, so once again, we're going to check if this pair is one of the 6 instances that uses subtraction. And in this case, that is true. So we're going to get its corresponding integer value and add it to result. So CM's corresponding integer value is 900. So we're going to add that to our result variable. So we'll come over here, and our result variable is now 1900. And after we do that, we have to increment the loop variable. And the reason we do this is because if we'd skipped this step and we hadn't incremented the loop variable, then our next pair that we would be evaluating would be M and X, right? Because right now I is equal to 1, but after executing the logic inside of the for loop, inside of that iteration, then we would just move on and I would be equal to 2, correct? So we would be starting with M, and then our new pair would be MX. But we don't want that because we know that CM is a pair. So technically, both of these characters or letters have already been taken into account. They've already been evaluated, right? They're out of the way, they're out of the equation, like they should be done. We don't need to look at these again. So we want to start by looking at X and C, right? We want to start off with X. That should be the next letter we're looking at. So in order to do this, we have to increment our loop variable because otherwise we're going to start at M and we don't want that. So by incrementing the loop variable here, we're setting I equal to 2, and then at the end of every iteration of a for loop, I is going to be incremented once more. So it's going to be equal to 3. So then we're going to come up here, and I is going to be equal to 3. And that's exactly what we want. So we're going to erase that, and then we're going to come over here and count 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to be starting at X, which is exactly what we wanted. And then the next pair we're going to be looking at is XC. And then once again, we're going to check to see if this pair is one of the 6 instances that use subtraction. And once again, it is. So we're going to get its corresponding value and add it to our result. So in this case, we're going to add 90 to our result. So we're at 1990. And then once again, we're going to increment the loop variable. So it's going to go from 3 to 4. And then since we're done executing all of the logic inside of the for loop for this iteration, it's going to be incremented one more time. So from 4, it's going to go to 5. And then that's going to be I for our following iteration. And so we come up here, and we're going to count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to start with I. And our next pair we're going to be looking at is IV. And then it's going to follow the same flow of logic. So we're going to check if this pair is one of the 6 instances that use subtraction, and it is, so we're going to get its value and add it to result. So in this case, the value corresponding to IV is 4, so we're going to add that to result, and then increment the loop variable. So I is equal to 5 right now. Incrementing it is going to make it 6. And then at the end of every iteration, it increments one more time, so that's going to be equal to 7. And so finally, we come up here again, and I is equal to 7. But this is not going to iterate anymore because since I is equal to 7 and s dot length is equal to 7, 7 is not less than 7. So since this condition is not met, that means that the for loop isn't going to execute anymore, and we are finished with our logic. So our result is equal to 1994, which is the expected output. So we are all done. So now we're going to head over to LeetCode and start implementing our solution. And the logic is going to stay the same, but the only thing that we're going to do different is see this table right here. It reminds me of a map because of the key value pairs, as you can see. So we're actually going to be making use of two maps in our solution just to look up our Roman numerals and their corresponding values. So one map is going to be for the single letter Roman numerals, and the other map is going to be for Roman numerals made up of two letters. So the first thing we have to do is go ahead and make our maps. So I'm going to make the first map, and since this map is just made up of Roman numerals that have one letter, I'm just going to name it singles. And we're going to set that equal to a new map. And inside of this map, we're going to have our key value pairs. Alright, so now that we have that one done, we're going to have to move on to our other map containing the Roman numerals with two letters. And since they have two letters, I'm just going to name them, I don't know if I should say like doubles or pairs. I'm just going to name them pairs, I think. Just like makes a little bit more sense. So const pairs is equal to new map. Alright, now that we have our two maps, we're going to declare a variable to keep track of the sum or the result. We're just going to say let result equal 0. And now we have to traverse the string s that's passed in so that we can analyze it 2 by 2, like I mentioned earlier. So in order to do this, we're just going to say for let I is equal to 0, I is less than s dot length, I plus plus, and then inside of here, since we want to examine everything 2 by 2, what we're going to do is declare a variable. We're just going to name it pair, and we're going to set this equal to s.car at I plus s.car at I plus 1. Alright, and now that we've grabbed those two values and we have a pair, let's check to see if that pair is inside of our pairs map to see if it's a valid pair, right? So if pairs.has pair, so we're going to say result plus equals pairs.get pair. And what that'll do is just get the value from the pairs map that corresponds to the valid pair. So let's just say our valid pair was IV, then we're just going to get 4, and we're going to add that to our result. And we have to increment the loop variable, and if it's not a valid pair, that means it's not inside of this pairs map right here. Well then, that means that the first element of that pair has to be a single, right? So what we're going to do is say result plus equals singles.get pair.car at 0. So we would just get the first character of our pair and then pull that corresponding value from our singles array and add it to the result. And that's that. After we do that, and after we iterate through the entire string, then we should have a result, and all we have to do is return it. So we're just going to return the result, and I think that should be it. We're just going to go ahead and run the code to see if it passes all the tests. Alright, and as you can tell, it's passed each test case, which is very good. So I'm happy with it, and we're going to go ahead and submit it. So I'm going to go ahead and try to see what I did wrong, and I'll come back once I've figured it out. I don't think there's an error in the logic, but I could be wrong, so maybe I just overlooked something. But either way, I don't know. I'm just going to go take a break, try submitting it a couple more times, and figure it out. So I'll be back once I'm done with that. Oh, my fault. Okay, I see what I did wrong. this was just a mistake over here because CL shouldn't have been one of these pairs. Alright, so I think that should be it. I'm going to go ahead and run this again. And I'm just going to go ahead and submit this now. I'm sorry about that, guys. I think this should work now. And so it was accepted. So yeah, that's good. I just made a silly mistake, so I'm sorry about that, but that is my solution. If you guys like this video, please make sure to like and comment, and I'll be coming out with more videos like this in the future because like I said, I plan on making this a series. So thank you for watching and have a good day.